Hi. Tilted Towers.
Peter drinking an expired slurp juice, causing him to become buffed and traveled into the Fortnite universe.
Welcome to what I read in February. Happy Leap Day. It is Leap Day at time of recording. February 29th. I don't have any jokes for it. Okay. February was one of the longest months of my life, I think. It felt like it took forever. Classic February. Am I right, guys? I know. There's not really any updates, anything I want to talk about. Let's just get into the books. I read 6 this month. Technically 7, but I included the 7th, which is Tales from the Cafe, in last month's review. First up, I read Miss Ice Sandwich by Miyako Kawakami. Now, Miyako Kawakami, the author of Heaven, Breasts and Eggs, All the Lovers in the Night. I've read Heaven and All the Lovers in the Night. I have Breasts and Eggs. You can't see it, though. You just have to believe me. And I'm very trustworthy, so you can. Heaven, wonderful. All the Lovers in the Night, wonderful. This book, Miss Ice Sandwich, is a little novella, about 90 pages, and it follows a young boy who is just transfixed, infatuated with a woman at his local supermarket who makes and sells sandwiches. This book to me read a lot more like a Sayaka Murata novella or novel, who's the author of Convenience Store Woman and Earthlings, both of which I've reviewed in previous videos. But yeah, it follows this unsure character. He's just taking in this sandwich woman who he names Miss Ice Sandwich because he doesn't know her name. Now this was a pretty fun read. Like I said, novella, short, 90 pages. I really enjoyed the relationships our young narrator had. 3 in particular, his relationship with his friend Tootie, and shout out Heat, Michael Mann, the references to that, like Miss Ice Sandwich and Heat being like perfect film book pairing is so funny to me, and I love it so much. Definitely my favorite part of the book is when they're like reenacting the gunfight scene from Heat. But yeah, I loved that relationship. I loved the relationship he had with his grandmother, and I loved the relationship he had with Miss Ice Sandwich, even though it was more so one-sided. But I love how Kawakami uses that relationship with Miss Ice Sandwich, this like fleeting, impermanent, very one-sided affair, if we could call it that, to explore themes of loss and how it relates to our main character's relationship with his grandmother, which I think is just brilliant. So yeah, it was a really fun read, and it's fun to look back on, but I don't think it's like super special. I don't know. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up, we read Motherhood by Sheila Heti. This one, I don't know, we're not off to the best of starts. I think it was a very creative, inventive, and unique format for a novel, following our narrator in sort of fragmented bits as they communicate with this part I love.
Hi, I'm editing, and I explained this concept really poorly in the video, so I'm just gonna leave the note from the book on the screen that tells you what I'm talking about. Thanks.
I did think it dragged on. The book could have been about 50 pages shorter, ultimately. I think it does a great job of exploring... I wouldn't say a great job. It does a good job of exploring motherhood, but I think the character's overall pessimism towards being a mother overshadows some of her really insightful observations about being a woman without children, if that makes sense. Yeah, short review for this one, 3 stars. Now I have physical copies. One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I bought this just like maybe just under a year ago with a friend. We were intending to read it together, and we finally got around to it. This is a gay book, which, shout out, that's great. I Okay, here's the thing. I bought this without reading the full synopsis. So when there was, spoilers, so when there was a time-traveling train, I went, what? I was like 50 pages in and I went, hey, what the hell is this? And then I read the remainder of the synopsis and I went, oh. So it follows this girl, August, who moves to New York and meets a girl named Jane on the subway, and Jane is stuck in the subway, and she's been stuck in the subway since the 70s. This book, I feel, suffers from loose ends syndrome, which I just made up and I'm trademarking, in that the author feels like they have to tie up every single little thing at the end of the book in order to end it, and I don't think this needed that. Like I think it could have ended 20 pages earlier when, again, spoilers, when they did the big thing to try and get Jane back into the past or stay in the future, whatever, and they thought it didn't work, and so August went 3 months without Jane. I think that would have been a great way to end it. Honestly, I didn't need Jane to come back. Hot take, but whatever. Also, they had sex on a train? That wasn't great. I didn't really like that too much. And like, I get it, romance novel, whatever. But I think this book is not going to age very well. And I think that because it came out 2 or 3 years ago, and it already hasn't aged very well. My condolences to anyone who reads this in 5 years. All that being said, that's a lot of negative stuff. It was kind of funny. Shout out to the Thanksgiving drag outfit of sweet potato titty tassels. I love that. My friend and I had a good long chuckle about that. There were some funny moments, some goofs and gags that I enjoyed. Ultimately, this is another 3.5 star for me. Next up, I was on a high of reading One Last Stop, my little sapphic romance novel, and when I saw this cover in Value Village, I was at a loss. And then I was at even more of a loss when I read the synopsis, because this is wild. Amber McLeod's dream is to become cheer captain at the end of the year, but it's an extra tall order to be joyful and spirited when the quarterback of your team has been killed in a car accident. And let me just tell you, the quarterback gets replaced by this person named Jack, and everything's whatever until Jack shows up on the first day of school, and Jack is short for Jacqueline. And this is just so, like, it hits every gay, like, media trope there is. Gay best friend, 2 gay people fake dating, homophobic best friend, homecoming coming out, and then all the, like, sports novel tropes, like, come back in the big game. Like, it's wild. But it's not, like, good. It tried to fit so much in to its 250 or whatever page runtime. It tries to encompass so much, and it fails at it ultimately. Also, we know nothing about these characters other than Amber, cheerleader, Jacqueline, football. That's about all we know about them. We get a bit of their family backstory, but really, we learn more about homophobic best friend, Kara, than we do anyone else, which is absurd, because she sucks. I gave this, like, I don't know, 2.5 stars, maybe. Next up we have Paradais with the apple tongue cover. Gorgeous. I found at my local library. Shout out to them. This is one of the most disgusting books I've ever read, disturbing, horrible, along with Lapvana. And considering this is only like 112 pages, I think it takes the cake. This follows our main character, narrator Polo, as he gets a job working as a like landscaper, cleaning crew kind of guy at Paradais, which is like a gated community kind of thing. And he starts drinking with this guy he calls Fat Boy, and they hatch a very devious scheme. I do kind of enjoy how it explores themes of masculinity at its most fragile, the violence inherent in masculinity, its effect on young men and boys, the entitlement of all that, big trigger warnings for like slurs, horrible language, sexual assault and abuse, yeah, incest, it's all in here, and it's quite horrific, but it's written quite beautifully. Fernanda Melchor does a really exquisite job. There's some really impressive sentences and passages in this, and so much so that all this horridness is at times overshadowed by like observation here, insight there, that's just like beautiful. But again, horrid, devious, like disgusting. It's another 3.5 star. This has been not a great month now that I'm thinking about it. Just in terms of ratings, but who cares about ratings? Because I had fun reading a lot of these books. The last book I read is Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. Jhumpa Lahiri is quickly becoming a really standout author to me. In college, I read one of her short stories. The name of the short story is escaping me.
Editing again. The story I'm talking about is The Treatment of Bibi Haldar as part of her collection of short stories, Interpreter of Maladies. So, go read it. It's awesome. Last year, I read The Clothing of Books, which is a tiny reflection on the relationship between authors and their writing and the cover of the books, which I think is so cool, so insightful, so great. And this is her novel, Whereabouts. This she wrote in Italian, which is not her first language, and translated herself into English, which I think is incredible. So cool. That alone is incredibly impressive. This book follows an unnamed narrator in an unnamed city, though it's definitely somewhere in Italy, and explores the idea of space, of absence, of relationship to space, to other people within spaces, in such a profound and observational and just gorgeous way. It did take me maybe 50 pages to really like sink my teeth into this one, but once I did, I couldn't put it down. It's just like, it's brilliant. Each chapter is a different place. So it's like on the sidewalk, on the street, in the office, at the trattoria, in spring, in the piazza, in the waiting room, in the bookstore, in my head, at the museum. It goes on like that. And I think it's just such a wonderful idea, these fragments of a life that come together to tell, not really to tell a story, there's not much of a plot here, but to communicate so effectively Lahiri's observations and reflection on space. It also opens with a quote that I'll read that is so suitable, sums it up gorgeously. Every time my surroundings change, I feel enormous sadness. It's not greater when I leave a place tied to memories, grief, or happiness. It's the change itself that unsettles me, just as liquid in a jar turns cloudy when you shake it. And that sums up this book better than I ever could. I gave this 4.25 stars. It was wonderful. Such a good read. Yeah, that's all I read in February, and with it being, of course, the shortest month of the year, I'm very happy with it. I'm 2 books ahead of my goal. I'm 250 odd pages ahead of my goal. So I'm really happy with where I'm at right now, reading-wise and otherwise. So thank you for watching, as always. Have a good month. I hope your February felt shorter than mine, or maybe not, because even though the months felt longer, it gave me more time to love and to care for others and to feel joy and to feel sadness and grief and all kinds of things. And that's a gift, you know? Okay, that's it. Bye!